Hi and welcome to UC Today. I'm Susie Harrison, Senior Content Editor, and today I'm delighted to be joined by both Microsoft and Q-SYS for a discussion on scaling Microsoft Teams rooms for learning spaces with Q-SYS. So from Microsoft, I'm joined by Carl Spies, who is Principal Lead Product Manager of Microsoft Teams Rooms. And from Q-SYS, we have Vic Bhagat, who is Principal Alliances and Ecosystem at Q-SYS. So welcome, Carl and Vic.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Let's start at the beginning. What are high impact spaces?
Yeah, so high impact spaces are typically these rooms that go beyond a traditional small, medium, and large meeting space. They typically need some additional features like advanced audio processing, intelligent multi-view and multi-camera video systems, room automations, room controls. So you can think about these are some examples of these are like learning spaces, all hand spaces, multifunction spaces, boardrooms, and even like executive offices and executive spaces.
And I'm assuming this market grew during the pandemic, and I'd be interested to know what the market trend was then, and also is the market still growing now?
Yep. And I think it really goes into how we work, how it's changing, and how every space needs to be enabled now for hybrid capabilities. So we're definitely seeing a big shift. In fact, Frost and Sullivan just recently did a study on this, and what they're seeing is by the end of this year, they expect there to be about 8.6 million rooms, which are considered high impact spaces. And that's actually growing to about 14.4 million by 2028. So there's massive growth in these spaces that we are seeing.
And you're still seeing that growth sort of post-pandemic?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and we're hearing the same thing from our customers as well. Things that we have customers that have established Teams rooms deployments, and they're looking to expand to these types of high impact spaces, specifically like NPR spaces, and then even in the education market. How do we bring better native support for these types of spaces in Teams rooms? So it's really customers that are either looking to expand or new customers that want to have consistency in platform across all of their meeting spaces, from the focused and small medium room archetypes up to, Vic is mentioning, these high impact spaces like multipurpose rooms, boardrooms, et cetera.
And what are the key considerations in high impact spaces like lecture halls?
Yeah, I think for that, a couple things that they need to consider is really, what experience do they want to output from that room? And, when they design that space, are they designing for the remote participants? Are they designing for the in-room participants? Are they designing for both? And so, what we see now is there's a lot of kind of custom solutions that, especially in the education market, that people have created to, really focus on what they want the output to be. And, things like being able to, track a presenter or a lecturer in the hall, or, being able to switch when there's activity in the classroom in the audience. How do the remote participants stay engaged in that and make it interesting when they're not actually in the room?
And so you've mentioned that engagement question. What are some of the other challenges that you're finding that people are having holding meetings in high impact spaces?
Yeah, I think there it's really a couple challenges is, being able to track presenters. I see this in our meetings at Microsoft sometimes. Some of our multi-purpose spaces aren't outfitted with the best cameras. And so there are specific spots where presenters will need to stand and they forget about that and they move out of frame. So as a remote participant, you're sitting there looking at a desk while there's audio in the background. And then, if the audience laughs, usually we have in those types of spaces, there might be the presenters mic'd up so you don't hear the audience reaction. And so as a presenter pauses, you're kind of on the remote side, you're wondering what's going on, right? Because you can't see the audience reaction. You can't hear the audience reaction. So how do you make that a more, like I said, an engaged experience for the remote users to have them be involved in what's going on in the room, right? And I think in medium and, let's say, small conference rooms, it's a bit easier because the amount of people in that space is a lot less, right? And it's really kind of this hybrid meeting. But these high impact spaces, normally the main component, like the presenters or the majority of the audience, and the source of the meeting content is being driven out of that space, right? And so you got to think about these experiences a little bit differently between kind of these lower archetypes and then these high impact spaces.
And I think it really comes down to the type of experience you want for that far end participant a lot. As Kyle was talking about, as you get into these larger spaces, which might be, you can almost consider it more of a one-to-many type meeting, learning space and all hands, they all have these similar characteristics, where you want to provide a little more focus on that presenter, still giving that presenter the freedom to walk around as they want to and engage with different areas of the live audience that's in room with them. That should always be captured. And then to have the ability to cut over to the audience or provide that audience view when there's a question. It's a much more natural and engaging experience for foreign participants, and not something that while you're in room, it's still a great experience to keep meeting continuity going in room, in that space as well. So, Kyle mentioned before about the in-room meeting experience and the far end. Both of those things really need to be considered in designing these spaces.
Right. So how can you see deployment tackle and sort of mitigate some of these challenges?
Yeah. So one of the really cool things with Q-SYS Vision Suite, which has recently been certified by Microsoft for Teams Rooms, is it provides the capability of vision-based AI presenter tracking, as well as camera switching based on audio cues and who is talking in the room. So with Vision Suite, you can be focused on the presenter and tracking them as they're walking across the stage. Even if they walk up to, say, a whiteboard or an interactive display, you can actually take the presenter feed there and cut that over to a whiteboard feed. So you have the presenter and the whiteboard focused on the content or whatever they're writing. But if someone in the audience asks a question, ceiling microphone picks up where that location is and will cut the audience feed over to a much more zoomed in view of that person asking a question. So it's a much more engaging experience for the far end. It's something that's completely automated and you don't need additional operators for it.
And so looking ahead, what additional features and improvements are coming in Microsoft's planning for Teams rooms to better support these diverse meeting places?
Yeah, so one feature that we're really excited about that we've recently announced is what we call multi-camera view. And what this allows is for these multiple streams from these cameras to be transmitted simultaneously to remote users. And so in Vic's earlier example, where today we're limited to a single stream of input, what would happen is, as the lecturer and the tracking camera is following the lecture, but then there is a question in the audience, those frames would switch back and forth, right? And as a remote user, I think it's difficult to track a conversation there, right? Because you're going from the presenter camera to the audience camera, and that switching time becomes very critical to be able to follow along. But with multi-camera view, now as a remote user, you'll be able to view those streams simultaneously throughout the whole meeting. And there's options where the remote user will be able to choose what stream they want to view at any given time. So we'll support up to 4 independent streams into the Teams meeting from that particular room, where the remote user can either view all of those streams simultaneously, or we have a feature we refer to internally as a carousel, where they can choose what stream that they want to focus on. And for us, we've just recently launched our new gallery experience within the Teams desktop client, where we've optimized the space allocation for meeting rooms as well, where we're giving the meeting room on what we call the stage for Teams 4x the area as a remote participant. And so now when you have 4 streams, you'll have a much better view of what's happening in that space and what's happening in that room.
This is a really, really cool change, I have to say, because now as a remote participant, you're getting a view of the presenter and the audience. You have full-time context of what's going on in the room for audience reactions, while it's still focusing in on what the presenter is doing. So having the ability to have additional streams in from Q-SYS into the Teams Room system really provides the ability to design a much better far-end experience.
Yeah, it sounds really great. Lots of exciting developments coming. Do you have any sort of final thoughts before we wrap up the interview?
I think go ahead, Vic. Yeah.
From my perspective, I always really like to challenge everyone to think about what is the function of the space and what is the right experience to deliver to the far end while making it still easy in room. So if you're in a multi-purpose room, for example, being able to switch from meeting modalities very easily for IT, that's a great thing to design and how you purpose build the AV equipment into the room with the right automations. But then also thinking about, hey, for far end, do I want it to leverage multi-stream, multi-view? What type of experience and where the focus should be for meeting type?
Yeah, and at Microsoft, from the product team perspective, we're thinking about these different types of meeting experiences, whether it be archetypes or the meeting type, the type of meeting that's happening in that space. And then how do we better partner with our OEM partners like Q-SYS to bring, a great experience to our customers?
Great. Well, we look forward to tracking this as we will do on UC Today. Thank you so much for joining me, Kyle and Vic. And if you did like this video, please do like and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching.